warm welcome to the Inspiration Day webinar, Empowering Pedagogies with FeedbackFruits. My name is Chie Adachi, and I'm one of your co-hosts today, along with my colleague from Griffith University, Professor Michael Sankey.
Hi.
Hi, Michael. Firstly, let us take a moment to recognize the various traditional lands on which we find ourselves today. I acknowledge the elders, past, present, and emerging of all the land we are participating in, and their ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. And I'm personally standing on Wiradjuri lands in southeast of Melbourne, and you might like to also take a pose to acknowledge the country that you're joining in. Before I get to the introduction and pass on to Michael, there are a few housekeeping matters. This session is recorded, as you can see, so as to share the recording post-conference on the website. All participants are muted, as we have about 260 participants registered today, which is fantastic. So you are encouraged to use the Q&A box to post any questions related to the presentations and the chat for general discussion. After each presentation, facilitators will pick up these questions to facilitate the Q&A session, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. However, in case of not having enough time, which it could be the case, we will liaise with our presenters to share their response after the conference. And we do have a conference hashtag. It's hashtag InspirationDay20 if you are on social media. We have a highly collaborative and enthusiastic organizing committees on standby today, taking turns to facilitate presentations and manage the chat. Turn on your camera and show up if you like, organizers, as I call your name so people can see you. Professor Michael Sankey, Chie Adachi, Lenka Bora from Griffith University, and Annika Bosteda, Max de Ra from FeedbackFruits, Amsterdam. Monica Simulin, Dr. Joe Elliott, Joan Sutherland, Surika Batutenga, Ambali Sadirahan from Deakin University. Thanks, guys. So today is all about sharing the stories of empowering digital pedagogies and being inspired by those stories of pioneers and practitioners. And we have an excellent lineup of speakers all across from Australia and Netherlands. At Deakin, our work with FeedbackFruit started back in 2018, our way of investigating and promoting self-MP assessment as an innovative approach to authentic, technology-enhanced assessment. One of our key goals in learning and teaching is to develop graduate employability skill sets in our students, getting ready to go into the world of work. And it's fair to say that the recent years of our partnership has worked well for us. Last year, as Australia's first, Deakin have entered the 4-year international consortium with FeedbackFruit to start collaborating on innovation or do tank projects in partnership. Dr. Tiffany Gunning from Deakin will talk more about this later on. I also had a privilege to visit FeedbackFruit in Amsterdam, January last year. I know some of us can't even remember what it's like to travel anymore, but that was where I went on a road tour to visit 6 Dutch universities that were part of the consortium, exploring various innovation projects, depending on where they were and what they needed. And it was literally a road trip as I got onto bikes, buses, trains, metros, you name it, to visit those campuses. A wonderful, authentic experience, if you ask me. They just didn't explain what they meant by road trip, I suppose. One of the key takeaways, though, from that trip for me was that the digital learning innovation takes partnership on many levels, and FeedbackFruit was doing interesting work in that space. And in the current climate with the pandemic, where we've seen, I think, the good, bad, and ugly in the space and work of digital learning, it is important to think about the significance of meaningful partnerships that can bring opportunities for digital learning innovation. And this is even more so now as we navigate through the financially disrupted landscape that we are in within the higher education. So I am looking forward to a fruitful afternoon of presentations and discussions. I think some of you did think that would come up as a joke at some point today. And with that, I'll pass on to Michael to add his welcome. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Chie. Fruitful, eh? That's very good. Like that. So many of you know me across the sector. I'm also the president of ACO, the Australasian Council of Open Distance E-Learning. And I just want to take a couple of minutes just to give a kind of a helicopter view of where we see ourselves in the sector at this point. So we've seen ourselves as universities develop up an ecology of tools. So based around our learning management system and things like that initially. So for whatever it's worth, I've been in higher education now for over 30 years and particularly dealing with e-learning for just on 20 years now. And I started teaching in 2001 in an online course. And at that point, well, I was very much based around the use of an LMS. So, you know, I was using Blackboard 4 at the time, and then we moved to Moodle and things like that. And the ecology was very much based around the LMS. And since that time, though, over that 19 years, we've seen a huge shift in the way we think about e-learning. We started with the LMS. We tried to introduce voice into the LMS and a few things, but we've found the LMS to be a little bit limited in some ways. And so we've had to, and of course, open up to things like lecture capture, video streaming, things like that. We then saw that there was this need to create a social presence online. And so we introduced things like e-portfolios and tools like that to help us make the student feel more engaged in that learning process and that they're on a journey with us and things. And so we moved now to things like the use of productivity tools such as Office 365, Teams, or Slack, or things like that, tools that will prepare people for the future of work. And so I've got these tools in our ecology, and it's all based around the notion of preparing students ready for the workplace. And so we still find there's still some holes within that ecology. I mean, we've stuck Turnitin in and things like that. But one of the things that's been lacking over the years has been this notion of a robust tool to do peer learning, peer feedback, and interacting with the students around their assessment works, letting them see and learn from each other, which is of course what they do in the workplace. Now we see that a bit with the productivity tools, but that's not the same. It's where we start to involve our students in the process of learning, engage them in that process of learning, that we start to see them doing more and actually learning more, because it is learning by doing and learning by what other people are doing. And so we see these tools being not very present in the LMS. We've tried over the years. I remember working with a staff member when I was at the University of Southern Queensland to try and develop up some kind of peer tool. We've looked at, well, going back 2 years now at Griffith, I've been there just over 2 years. I came in and we were struggling with this notion of a peer tool. We're not really sure what we're going to do. We had PeerMark, which was in Turnitin, but that really was a little bit clunky. We had what we could do in PebblePad, which is great, but it wasn't fully meeting the mark. We needed to have a tool that allowed us to map into our graduate attributes and professional standards and things like that. We had Spark Plus for a while, but the Queensland government, or QITC, Queensland IT regulation, said, no, you can't use that. It's not a safe product. And we've had a number of homegrown products and things over the years. But really over that time, there's been nothing really to fill that gap for us. So 2 years ago, we went on this adventure, looked at all these tools, and really we landed on FeedbackFruits as being a tool that could really help us move forward in this space. A tool that, in our particular case, we are looking to use empowering pedagogies as active learning, authentic learning, collaborative learning. These kind of tools allow us to do this in this space. And so what I'd like to do is hand over to our first presenters, and Annika Borgsted and Max de Ruff, who are from FeedbackFruits, who are going to give us a bit of a journey through FeedbackFruits and the Do Tank, and the way in which institutions can work together to create these new engaging pedagogies for us and the tools to help us do that. So thanks, guys. Take it away.